went to school at UP, majored in visual communications, editorial design and illustration. They don't have that program anymore. And then I went to NYU for grad school, and I took several classes, courses at New School, Parsons School of Design, Art Students League. And then when I moved back here, I took 2 more courses at UP, maybe a few years ago. Printmaking, which I love, and Philippine modern art, just to, since I've been away for 20-something years, I figured I should, refresh and, review my own art, my own history. The last several years since I moved back to the Philippines, my works have drastically changed. Maybe because I adapt to where I am, and because I moved back home. So most of my works have been about memory, about family, about feeling a little dislocated, because a big chunk of me is actually outside of the Philippines. Although I grew up here, I'm not familiar with a lot of pop culture from the last 20 years. So may ganon, may kulang. So you get bits and pieces, and I play with memory, I play with those things in my work. I moved like 4 years ago, back and forth, and the big part of the 4 years when I was slowly moving back to Manila was renovating this house. So I shifted from painting and drawing to making sculptures, 3-dimensional works, functional art, influenced and inspired by the workers who constructed the house. When I create art, it's not a very conscious, most of the time it's not a very conscious decision. I'm more reactive to things happening in my surroundings, with me. So when I moved to New York, maraming mga leftover stuff from art school from here that I brought to New York. So I'm a little delayed that way. I guess my Filipino-ness was very apparent. And then now that I've moved back to Manila, not that it's not Filipino, it is. Anything I think a Filipino makes is Filipino. But in terms of moving back here, a lot of things that I guess I've absorbed in New York is coming through in my works. I'm not very, I guess, visually apparent, but I don't know if that's making sense to you. But I know I'm not talking about diaspora anymore, which I was when I was in New York. I'm not talking about identity as a Filipina, as a person of color, as a queer person. So it's more about just my coming back home. So I guess a big chunk of it is like personal. Also, because I moved back here, and because of the construction of the house, I guess it's a fluid thing. I was surrounded by a lot of recycled materials, a lot of wood, and that's how I came about making sculptures and functional art. I guess I always like recycling. I grew up with my mom who was really big on recycling, from food to art. I never did it in New York, maybe because of space constraints, budget. So pretty much in New York you have your own space, and what you can really do is paint or draw. I mean, you can do other things, but I can't imagine myself making huge benches or huge sculptures in my space. I can't hire an assistant or those things. And many things that I'm doing now here in Manila are things that I could never do in New York. I mean, for one thing, I can never build a house in New York and play with different materials. and collaborate with, it's more organic here. I'm not gonna flatter myself and say I can do everything. I can do basic carpentry, but there are finishing carpets who are much better than me. So, and I love the energy, the collaborative aspect of working with other people, and they learn from me and I actually learn from them. And it's like a fresh look at art. You do something and you think it's great, and sabi na sa'yo, para saan mo yan? It grounds you, and it's a nice exchange. I'm always excited to, when I just stay home, because I use recycled materials, I guess it's more my sensibility. I'm just excited about everything. I'm excited about cigarette butts. It's just like transforming something that's really nothing, that's thrown away, and then making it into something, and then people look at it at a totally different realm. Ewan ko, parang, di ba? And they're just ordinary things. I'm like fascinated with trying to make ordinary things extraordinary. That's my goal. It doesn't always work, but it keeps me alive.